You mentioned the Royal Marine tour in Afghanistan was pretty hairy. I know there seems, I mean, I had Dean Stott on last year.
Cool guy.
I
love Dean.
There seems to be a significant or at least noticeable disparity between what American special operations guys can and are willing to talk about mission detail-wise and everybody I've ever heard speak about it from the UK. But is there anything that you can share from that deployment in terms of hairy operations that you were on, or any kind of just stories from that deployment that you can or are willing to share?
So I conducted 3 tours of Afghanistan.
Prior to?
1 in the Royal Marines,
okay,
and 2 in the Special Forces.
Yeah.
So the Royal Marine one I can talk about, and I can touch on certain things within my task force sort of missions that I'd done. But this was Op Herrick. So Op Herrick was the name of the operation. I was on Op Herrick 7 in the Royal Marines as section commander. And, during that period, it was IED central. It was, Op Bomber, i.e. you go out, 2 ways in and out of a FOB. A FOB is a forward operational base for people that don't know what a FOB is. There's two ways in and out. So what we had to do, which was our main job really, the patrolling was the patrolling. We'd be reactive. We'd talk to villagers. We'd talk to elders. That was almost the easy part. If we needed to if we got into a firefight, we knew what we needed to do. We were well rehearsed in that. It was more keeping the camp safe. So that guard duty, the stag duty that you're on, where you have to stay vigilant all the time because we had a heavy weapons team, form at the top of the FOB, so they're on overwatch, if you wish, and then obviously certain corners of the compound were sangins, where you'd protect the base. But it wasn't so much protecting the base; it was protecting the entry and exit points of where we would patrol, because there's only so many patterns that we can do before the enemy click on and go, right, they're using this, they're using here, they're coming down here, they're either going across this field or they're going through the town, and because everything was boarded up at this stage, all the corrugated iron, none of the shops were open, it was desolate. We were in control of that location of that area. And it was just that, just being so vigilant at night, but then, waking up and going out on a 14-hour patrol, where you knew that the first part of it was the most important part of the mission, was getting the fuck out of the FOB, and talk about fucking passing the mine detector about. If that was like a fucking hot potato, it's like your fucking go, it's your go, but and you could see the fear in the lad's eyes, to a point where, as section commander, who was always one back, navigating, etc., I'll be like, let me fucking go up. No, and no, let me go up. And I think the Afghan sort of territory, or the Afghan sort of era, changed how we bonded as soldiers. It changed how we saw hierarchical structures. It changed how we spoke to our less superior. It really bonded units together. Where back at camp, you jump into that whole, yes sir, if he's a sergeant, but when they're on the ground, you're calling them by their first names. I think Afghan really changed that dynamic of the rank structure and how we bonded as the lads, rather than keeping it, keeping it so separate when you weren't in there. So
like more of a team.
Yeah, it was like, even when you got off, you got onto camp and you knew the hierarchical structure, you knew how to respect it and what to call people. And I just found that it really bonded us together. But it was ID Central. I remember we were called out on a QRF, and to pick up a patrol that'd just been hit. The commanding officer in that patrol got hit, and he got blown into the four corners. It was in an alleyway, and he got blown into the four corners of this compound to the point where, you know, we're literally picking up legs, a torso, arms, and a head. And I can remember being part of that QRF and bringing body parts back to the stretcher. And and the torso was just on the stretcher. And when you go through training and you go through all these scenarios, you know, you imagine, you know, putting a full body on a stretcher. It might be missing an arm or it might be missing a leg. And, you know, you learn how to put a tourniquet on, and you learn how to, you know, stop the bleeding and to stabilize a casualty so you can get them back into the HQ so they can get flown off. But, you know, when I think about the training that we had, we never prepared ourselves for picking up limbs. Make sure you pick up, you know, the first thing was we need to identify every single part of this soldier. You know, we need to bring all the legs, arms back, and, you know, it was literally that bad. Yeah. He literally he stood on it. And I can remember putting the head on the torso. The torso was on the stretcher, big long stretcher as it was. Torso on it, arms and legs either side of the torso packed in, and the head put on top. And when we were packaging it up with a poncho, you know, the ponchos that you have, even when it was covered, it didn't look right. It just looked like a fucking parcel on a fucking stretcher. And it's not the body parts. Picking up the body parts wasn't the thing, but it was just weird because we got this stretcher, and for years and years and years, carrying a stretcher, you know, fucking stretcher races, and, you know, having mannequins on there. It's just you're so used to a full body on there, and that's the one thing from that patrol on that IED strike that really stuck in my head. Yeah. It wasn't going to retrieve the body. It was this. It doesn't fucking look right, and I can picture it in my head now. Just this square cube of body parts just put on this stretcher. Yeah,
and was that kind of the holy shit, this is real, kind of sobering moment that.
Yeah, it was, but it was also in a, you know, I don't like to admit it, but it was like, fuck yeah, this is what I, even though, you know, it's, and again, being maybe selfish, and I'm just telling you the truth. Yeah. You know, I was like, this is what I fucking came here for. Yeah. You know, it's fucking shit. You know, I didn't expect, you know, to come back from tours. You know, it's like, you know, I'd always prepared myself psychologically, thinking to myself, sort of half preparing myself that we're not going to come back with everyone. Yeah. You know, so when it did happen, it actually sort of, I think it helped with the process because, you know, I lost a lot of people over the 3 tours that we done. But on one hand, I remember thinking back, wow, this is fucking real, like you said. Shit, this is what we've joined up for. But on the other hand, thinking, right, it's fucking game on. Yeah. Right now, you know, this is what I've came to see. Believe it or not, this is what I've came to see. This is what I've came to do, and this is what, you know, and this is what now has given me the fuel and the fire to continue to do what I want to do.
Like from a mentality standpoint, was there any element of you or your guys, and it doesn't sound like it, but I'm just curious, that thought or felt like, hey, this isn't really our fight, this is the United States, why are we here? Or was it more, hey, here's an opportunity to get put in the game, let's fucking take it, and we're excited to do it? Was there a mix of that, or?
Do you know what? We were the alliance between the US and the UK, like our brothers, you know, everything that happened to you was a personal insult to us. Yeah. You know, and it felt that way. Wow. You know, it was, you just give us a call. You know, you are bigger brothers. You give us a call, we'll be there to back you. Yeah. And it's vice versa. And this is, you know, we won't go into it now because we're in the you know, the military stage of my career. But, you know, just with what's happening between British and US politics, that fracture right now kills me. Yeah. It is I call it the biggest political military faux pas in modern day history. just to see those tiny fractures between the UK and the US. But going back to I'm there. We are high-fiving each other when we cross each other. We are. Our alliance then, it wasn't even questionable. It's just like when someone that. You fight with your big brother, but then when someone, or your little brother, when someone hurts him, or you're fiercely protective.
Yeah.
That was the mentality.
Yeah.
You name it. Tell us where you want us. Tell us where we need to be at what time, and we'll be there.
Do you feel like it's still that way militarily and just not that way politically, or is there even a fracture that you see or think exists today in the military?
No, I think there's still like that military-wise. I truly believe it's like that.
Yeah.
I really do, because when everyone says, "Oh, the Americans are a bit too much, they're a bit," I'm like, no. Listen, and the first thing I say, if you work with the Americans, no, well, shut the fuck up. Is I think in the military, but the political aspect of things is like you got all the woke shit that's going on nowadays. It's like the Americans would listen. A lot of people, the Americans, think they're the powerhouse. They're just the bullies of the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, someone's got to fucking do it. And we've had that alliance from day dot.
Yeah.
And just to see a slight fracture externally, I have to admit, external from the military, because I don't feel like it's like that within the ranks, but external from the military, with all the bullshit that's going on. That, to me, cut like a dagger.
Yeah.